Peace and love, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Wars. And today's episode is going to be about misconceptions and deception. And I've been seeing a narrative being spun online about Afrocentricism and pro-African culture that spins this narrative of Africa being a place that didn't have the Christian faith prior to the Europeans, and how the Europeans are the ones who came and gave us the Christian faith, and how that is far from the truth. First, I'd like to show you guys a video of Afrocentrism, African ideologies, and pseudosciences mixed together to spin a narrative which is basically propaganda. And the second video is going to show you proof of our biblical, historical background as Africa. Play the video.
This institution of marriage, widely normalized by the European traditions and the Christian faith, is spiritually upside down. And your question will be, how? According to Ubuntu studies, the natural state of a woman is represented by the natural state of the ovum, while the natural state of a man is represented by the natural state of the sperms. In the process of fertilization, the sperm does not choose the ovum, but rather it is the ovum that sends chemical instructions that gives more speed, more support, and more oomph to the sperm of her choice that gets to win her race. From this natural fertilization phenomenon comes the metaphor of marriage in many African tribes, where the fallopian tube is the altare, while the ovum is the bride that stands at the altar waiting for her perfect groom, which is the perfect sperm to walk down the aisle and fertilize her. To the European Bible, however, in its upside down position, stipulates that during marriage, the groom, which is the sperm, is the one that stands at the altar waiting for its bride, the ovum, to walk down the aisle and get fertilized.
Now, to counteract the information that you just heard, I'm going to take us through a little history lesson mixed with a little science to just for sake of conversation. Alright, so let's get them. So the first human remains, according to science and the Smithsonian magazine, was Lucy, found in Ethiopia, which is Africa, dated to be 3.2 million years old. According to science.org, which is the information I just gave you, over 90% of the time, there's basically nothing. No significant human activity, pretty much caveman vibes. Really? Mind you, this is down in South Africa somewhere. They can't really pinpoint where. That being said, history has it that we traveled from all the way down there, past the midsection of Africa, past the Horn of Africa where the Nile is, past the north side, out of the continent, into a land that is now called the Middle East, aka Mesopotamia. Y'all better know it as Chirac. Oops, I'm in Iraq. Wildest migration past the continent full of prime real estate, science is still scratching their heads till this day. I'm spitting all these facts to say this. Mesopotamia, which I consider a black civilization, was 6,000 years ago, 4th century BC. Lasted about 3,000 years. Egypt, stay with me, is also a black civilization that came about 1,000 years later, around 3100 BC. Then the Greeks, who came about 2,000 years later, 800 BC. And lasted 1,300 years, which as far as I know is the first Caucasian civilization. Then finally, the Roman Empire, which was pretty much in the same time period. And the reason I'm not giving you dates is because the Roman Empire built their civilization over the later Greek Empire, which then birthed the Byzantine Empire, aka the British Empire, and the USA that you see today. So why did I give you this full breakdown? It's because I wanted you to know your history, or at least the parts they tell you. Anyway, if you look at the time frames that I gave you, Caucasian empires are all at the bottom of this list. African empires are at the top of this list. So it makes no sense to imply or even suggest that these empires that were at the bottom of this list and are the latest empires to have fallen, to have taught these ancient African empires anything about the ideology that is the Christian faith. It would be safe to assume that the faith was taught to them. And if you don't believe me, watch this video.
See, this is a palace built in 1628 in Africa, in Ethiopia. Now, in the distance, I don't know if you can see it, but you see right there, that's the palace of King Fasilides. And then over there, that's the palace of his son, King Yasu. Yasu is just Amharic for Joseph. That's why it sounds like Jesus, like Yasu. And then over there, that's the modest palace built by his son, Johannes. Now it's, you probably know that's John. Now, if you can see that building over there, that used to be the second largest library in Africa. It was bested only by the library in Alexandria, you know, and then we moved down, and then you see the third castle. Now I'm going to come this way. The fourth castle, that's the castle of King David. David is Amharic for David. So you see, these were all Christian kings, and a lot of this palace is in ruins because it was bombed by the British.
Now do you see why it's such misinformation to say that Africa was given the Christian faith by the British Empire? Because it was not. The Christian faith was in Africa way before the British colonial system was even thought of. Read the Bible. Read history books. Because a lot of this information is there. The internet is there. And people, the misinformation must stop. Africa has had the Christian faith way, way before colonialism. I love you, and be blessed by the best. Like and subscribe. Peace.